Today we are going to talk about the introduction or orientation to human anatomy. In this lecture we will discuss the basic terms regarding human anatomy. First of all, we will discuss the basic two terms, that is anatomy and physiology. What is anatomy and what is physiology? First of all, we will discuss about anatomy. Anatomy is the study of structure, but physiology is the study of function. These two terms are always used together because we cannot separate each other. When we see the structure, then we must know about it, that what does it do. This statement, what does it do, indicate the study of function of that structure. That's why these two terms are always used together. Now let's move towards the definition of anatomy and physiology. Anatomy. As we have discussed that anatomy is the study of structure. The study of structure. To make a clinical diagnosis and perform physical examination, we see the surface anatomy. And when we see the deeper observation, to make a cut and remove the tissues and see the internal organs, to make observation, and for that purpose the term used is called dissection. Dissection means carefully cutting. These two terms, anatomy and dissection, literally mean cutting apart. These two terms, they literally mean cutting apart. Another term used in this session, that is cadaver. Cadaver is used for the study of dead human body, and this study is always done by the many health care students, many health sciences students in their training session. What was the term? That is cadaver. The study of dead human bodies. Now let's move towards the types of anatomy. What are the types of anatomy? The anatomy can be divided into two parts. That is gross anatomy and microscopic anatomy. First one is gross anatomy and second is microscopic anatomy. What is gross anatomy and what is microscopic anatomy? The structure that can be seen with naked eye, that's called gross anatomy. And the study of structure of tissues or specimen under the microscope, that's called microscopic anatomy. We will move towards the gross anatomy in our further sessions. Now let's take an example of anatomy. As called neuroanatomy. Now, what is physiology? Physiology is the study of function. As we have discussed, the anatomy is the study of structure, while physiology is the study of function. Physiology is the study of function. There are different types of physiology. Number one is neurophysiology. What is neurophysiology? The function of nervous system or neurons. And endocrinology. Endocrinology related to the hormones. So, the function of hormone, the study of function of hormones. This was the term anatomy and physiology. So let's move towards the anatomical position. What is anatomical position? Anatomical position is used to describe the human anatomy in a proper way. To define or precise the standard frame of reference. That's why we used to describe the human anatomy in proper way, and that proper way should be in anatomical position. What is anatomical position? In anatomical position, we see the structure, proper location of structure of that organ, because where is the aorta, where is thymus gland, and where is proper location of heart, and where is the proper description and how to describe that organ in a proper way. For example, the thymus or aorta is superior to the heart, while and the heart is the medial to the lungs, because we cannot describe the structure without anatomical position. When we see the structure of forearm, in forearm these two bones are parallel to each other, ulna and radius. The radius is lateral to the ulna, but in prone position, when spine position is that when face of palm is upward, and when prone position the face of palm is downward. But when we're talking about this forearm position of two bones, that is ulna and radius, because in normal position, in spine position, the ulna and radius, the radius is lateral to the ulna. When this position is downward or prone position, and the ulna or radius, the radius is medial to the ulna at elbow point, while lateral to the radius of ulna at this joint. That is why the anatomical position is very important. We should know what are the basic points should be noted in anatomical position. What are the points? That is, first of all, this body should be in erect position, arms should be aside, and face of palm facing forward, feet together, eyes and face should be in forward direction. These points should be noted in anatomical position. First of all, what is anatomical position? First of all, the body should be in erect position, standing upright. Second, arms should be aside, arms at the side. Face of palm facing forward, palm of hand facing forward. Number 4, feet together. And the last but not the least, eyes and face forward. These points should be noted in anatomical position, because when one of them is neglected, the anatomical position, we cannot say this is anatomical position. That's why these 5 points should be observed while making an anatomical position. Anatomical position is strictly monitored to describe the human structure. Now we are moving towards the anatomical planes. What is anatomical plane? After anatomical position, we will discuss anatomical planes. Anatomical planes are the planes or section are the cut to describe the human anatomy. But planes are the imaginary cut, and sections implies on the real cut to describe the human anatomy. But we are discussing now the planes. What are the anatomical planes? Planes implies an imaginary chart to describe the human anatomy. There are three types of imaginary chart or planes used in human anatomy to describe the structure. First of all, sagittal plane, and the second is frontal plane, and third is transverse plane. These are the three anatomical planes. Before we really go to in detail of sagittal plane and frontal plane and then transverse plane, we should discuss the basic directional terms so we can easily understand these planes. So now we have to move directional terms. What are the directional terms? We will discuss one by one. First of all, the direction term is anterior, and second is posterior. What is anterior and what is posterior? Anterior is term is used to describe the structure that lies to in front position. This is the towards the front. Any structure that lies in front line or in front position, that's called anterior, and posterior towards the back. The structure which lies to the backward, that's called posterior. What is anterior? Towards the front, and posterior towards the back. For example, when we are talking about anterior, in anterior, here is the sternum, and sternum is anterior to the vertebral column because vertebral column is in posterior position. And when we will talk about the posterior and we talk about the vertebral column is posterior to the sternum or any structure that is in anterior side. So anterior and posterior. The other two terms used synonymously, we can say that ventral and dorsal. These terms have the same definition, that anterior and ventral towards the front. Ventral is also used to describe the structure which lies in the front line or front position. So dorsal also used in replace of term posterior towards the back. So we can see that ventral, dorsal, anterior, posterior. How we can remember ventral and dorsal? In ventral, EN, N, and T, and T, two letter in ventral, and having two letter in anterior, anti. So we can use anterior and ventral for same definition, towards the front, and in dorsal or posterior, the definition of these two terms, that is towards the back. So any structure which we can describe posteriorly or in backward, that's called posterior or dorsal. How we can remember? In posterior the letter O, and in dorsal the letter O. So this is the method to remember the anterior, posterior, and ventral and dorsal. And the remaining terms, that is superior and inferior. The upper structure of body, that's called superior, and the lower structure of body, that's called inferior. How we can describe this structure? The head is superior to the clavicle. Here is the clavicle bone and here is the head. Superior. the head is the superior to the clavicle bone. And when we see the definition of term of inferior, how we can describe it? Because the lower limb is inferior to the chest cavity or abdominopelvic cavity. So these two terms can be applied for the upper portion superior and the lower portion, like our lower structure, is inferior, and the remaining term is distal and proximal. Any structure away from the origin. The definition of distal is away from the origin and near to the origin. Distal and proximal. So here is the elbow joint. This is the origin. And distal. What is distal? The wrist joint. The hand is distal to the elbow joint. And proximal. The ulna and radius is proximal to the elbow joint. Another term used for this purpose to describe the human anatomy, that is lateral or medial and medial. Lateral and medial. For example, this is the midline position. The body can be divided into right and left half, and in middle here is the sternum. This is the sternum. This is the xiphoid process. Here is the angle of Lewis. This is the sternum. Sternum is always in the midline position. The structure of sternum. Sternum is in midline position. This is the midline position. We can say any organ which lies in middle position, that is called midline position. And this structure that is away from the midline, the structure away from the midline, that is called lateral. And the any structure towards the midline is called medial. What is medial and what is lateral? This structure away from the midline is called lateral, and structure towards the midline, that is called medial. What is medial to the sternum and what is the lateral to the sternum? Here are the ribs attachment over here. The 12 pairs are attached to the sternum. How we can describe these two terms? Because ribs are lateral to the sternum. Because the ribs are lateral to the sternum, away from the midline. This is the midline. And sternum is medial to the ribs. Sternum is to the medial to the ribs. These are the directional terms. Now we can easily understand the anatomical planes. As we have discussed that three types of anatomical planes are used to describe the human anatomy. In sagittal plane, first of all, sagittal plane. In sagittal plane, we implies a cut vertically in midline position, vertically, and the body will be divided into right and left half. This type of plane is called imaginary plane. In imaginary plane, the body will be divided into right and left half. And the second one is frontal or coronal plane. In coronal plane or frontal plane, the cut is applied in midline, and in this type of plane the body will be divided into anterior and posterior portion, and this type of cut is called plane is called frontal or coronal plane. In this frontal or coronal plane the body will be divided into anterior or posterior portion. Anterior and posterior position. Anterior and posterior portion, the body will be divided, and this type of plane is called frontal or coronal plane. And the third one is transverse. Transverse plane. In transverse plane, the cut or plane or imaginary cut is applied horizontally, and the body will be divided into superior and inferior portion. That is called transverse plane. The cut or plane is applied horizontally, and the body will be divided into superior and inferior portion. This is called transverse plane. The body will be divided into superior and inferior. These are the three planes which we can use in human anatomy. One is sagittal plane, second is frontal plane, and third is transverse plane. In sagittal plane, the imaginary cut is applied in midline position vertically, and body may be divided into right and left half. And in frontal or coronal plane, the cut or imaginary cut is applied vertically but in midline position, and body will be divided into front and anterior and posterior. And this cut, for example, this is midline position, and when this coronal plane in imaginary cut is applied, and this cut is also in midline position, and this cut is also vertically, but it will be perpendicular to this cut, to this sagittal plane, and body will be divided into anterior and posterior position, and third one is transverse plane. In transverse plane, the cut imaginary cut is applied horizontally, and the body is divided into superior and inferior portion. This type of plane is called transverse plane. These were the three anatomical planes. And in next lecture, we will cover or we will discuss body cavities and different organ systems. After directional terms and anatomical positions, we are moving towards the surface anatomy. What is surface anatomy or external anatomy? In surface anatomy or external anatomy, human body is divided into two regions. One is axial region and second is appendicular region. So, the knowledge of surface anatomy is very necessary for any clinicians or any healthcare professionals to make clinical diagnosis and perform the physical examination, because without proper knowledge the healthcare professional cannot make a clinical diagnosis and perform the physical examination. That's why it's very necessary for any clinicians or any healthcare professionals to know about the surface anatomy or external anatomy. So we are moving towards the surface anatomy. In surface anatomy, as we have discussed, that the body is divided into two regions. One is axial region and second is appendicular region. Now we are focusing on axial region. What is axial region? Axial region is that region which is the central body portion. It is the central body portion from head to the trunk or abdomen. So in axial region, the parts which are consisting in axial region, that are first of all head. Start from the top, that is head, and then neck, and then trunk. Trunk is further divided into two regions. One is thoracic region and the second is abdomen region. Abdomen is further divided for clinical purpose or assess the pain or any surgical procedure is divided into four quadrants. Quadrants. Quadrant means four parts in which two lines are drawn from umbilicus and these lines are intersecting each other and divided into four parts. That's called quadrants. This quadrant scheme is often introduced in assessment of abdomen. So what are the four quadrants? Now we will discuss what are the four quadrants. The abdomen is divided into quadrants, four quadrants. For this purpose, because we are going to describe or discuss the abdomen region. In abdomen regions, at the umbilicus, or this is the human body, at the umbilicus, because umbilicus is found in abdomen region. So at the umbilicus, two lines are intersecting each other, are crossing each other. One is perpendicular and second is horizontal. Two lines are crossing or intersecting at the point of umbilicus and abdomen is divided into four quadrants. Two quadrants at upper side and two are at lower side. So this is right side, this is left side. So the two quadrants are at right side, that's called right quadrant, and rest of two quadrants at left side and these quadrants are called left side. The upper side, and this is upper side, this quadrant is called right upper quadrant. And at the lower side, this quadrant is called right lower quadrant. Simply we denoting it R U Q, right upper quadrant, right lower quadrant R L Q, right lower quadrant, and moving towards the left side, this is upper side and left side, so this is called left upper quadrant. Simply called L U Q, and at lower side and left side this quadrant is called left lower quadrant. Simply we denote it L L Q. These are the four quadrants for abdominal assessment or define the any pain or any abnormality which is found in abdominal regions. Abdomen can also be divided into 9 regions. Divided into 9 regions for clinical purpose. We are moving towards the 9 regions. What are the 9 regions? We will discuss. Now we are moving towards the 9 regions because abdomen also divided into 9 regions for clinical purpose, in which two lines, basically four lines are drawn at the abdominal regions. But first we will draw the two lines perpendicular. The two lines at the one is at the right side and one is at the left side. Here is the clavicular. Here is the clavicle bone. Right? This is a right clavicle. This is a left clavicular. One line is drawn and at the mid of clavicular, and this line is called mid clavicular line. Here is the middle point of the center point of the clavicle, and I am going to draw the from midpoint of clavicular bone, and this line is called mid clavicular line. This mid clavicular line at right side and this mid clavicular line at the left side. These two lines are perpendicular drawn at the abdominal regions at the mid-clavicular line, and these lines are called mid-clavicular line, and one line is called under the costal, under the ribs. This line is called subcostal line, and another line is going to draw the horizontally at the point of anterior superior spine of pelvic bone, where we have seen the pockets of pants of joints at right and left side. So here is the anterior superior spine of pelvic bone. This line is called intertubercular line. Intertubercular line. So, abdomen divided into 9 regions. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. This line under the costal or rib, this is called subcostal line. And this is called mid-clavicular line. So four lines are crossing and dividing abdomen into 9 regions. This is right side, this is left side, and this is the central side. So this region is called is above the umbilicus. Here is the umbilicus. Is above the umbilicus, and here is the lower the umbilicus. So this region is found at lower side, and this region is called hypo. This is called epi, because epi means upper or upon. Here is the gastric region. Stomach or gastric. So before the stomach or upside of the stomach is called the epigastric region, and below the stomach is the hypogastric region. This is costal or ribs. Ribs also called hypochondric or chondric region. This is called hypochondric region. This region is called hypochondrial region, and this region is at the inguinal site. So this region is called inguinal region. And this region is called at the umbilicus region or lumbar region, because here is the at posterior side the lumbar vertebra are found. That is why this region is called lumbar region. So we have discussed 6 regions. These center regions Above the stomach, that is called epigastric region, and below the stomach is called hypogastric region, and the center region is called umbilical region. And at the left side, at the right side, this is under the costal region. This is called hypochondrial region, and this is the center. Where is the lumbar vertebra at posterior side are found, and this is called lumbar region, and inferior to the lumbar region is inguinal region, and this region at the right side and often denoting is right hypochondrial region, right lumbar region, right inguinal region, and same at the left side. This is right left hypochondrial region. Inferior to the left hypochondrial region at the middle side, this is left lumbar region. Inferior to the lumbar region and lower side, this is called inguinal region, and at the left side, this is called left inguinal region. So these are the 9 regions of abdomens. Abdomen divided into, for description purpose, first of all, in 4 quadrants and 9 regions. 4 quadrants we have discussed, and now this is the 9 regions of abdomens for clinical purpose. Axial skeleton we have discussed, in which head, neck, and then trunk. Trunk is further divided into 2 regions, that is thoracic region and then abdomen region. Abdomen region is further divided into 4 quadrants and 9 regions. So now we are moving towards the appendicular region. In appendicular region, the appendicular region is divided into 2 portions. One is upper limb and second is lower limb. Upper limb is further divided into different parts, that is brachium. Brachium means arm, and antebrachium. Antebrachium means forearm. Brachium, arm, antebrachium, forearm, and then carpus, and then manus, and then digits. Carpus at the wrist joint, also called wrist. Manus mean hand. And digits are fingers. These are the parts of upper limb: brachium, antebrachium, carpus, manus, and then digits. Brachium means arm, antebrachium forearm, carpus means wrist, manus hand, digits fingers. Same like in lower limb, when we are discussing lower limb, in lower limb this is thigh, and then crust, and then crust, and then pes, and then digits. So thigh is the portion from hip joint to the knee joint, and crest is the proper leg, and pes is the foot, and then digits are the fingers. In strict anatomical position, when we are describing what is leg and what is arm, so the portion which is from shoulder joint to the elbow joint, this is called arm. Where is the location of arm? From shoulder joint to the elbow joint. But when we are talking about the leg, proper leg, the leg is that portion from knee joint to the ankle joint. So this is the difference. When we are talking about arm, again listen. When we are talking about the arm is that point where shoulder joint to the elbow joint end. When we are talking about the leg, what is leg? Leg is the portion from knee joint to the ankle joint. We will not discuss, we will not say the leg is that from hip joint to the knee joint. The leg is that when we say proper leg is that point from knee joint to the ankle joint. This was the appendicular region. So we will discuss in next lecture the different body cavities and membrane. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum. Today we are going to talk about body cavities. There are basically two types of body cavities in our human system. One is ventral body cavity and second is dorsal body cavities. Before we really go to in detail of these body cavities, first we should know about what is cavity. Cavity means the hollow or shallow space in which an organ lies. Means the organ lies within that space, that is called the cavity. So what is cavity? Means the hollow or shallow space. The hollow or shallow space in which an organ lies. The organs lies within that space is also called the viscera. These organs also called the viscera in medical term. These viscera holding and covering by the thin layers within that cavity so that these organs keep in place and cannot be dispersed to and fro. So these viscera holding by that layers are called membranes. These now we will focus membranes as well as cavities. Cavities, the hollow or shallow space in which an organ lies, and that the organs within the cavity covering by the thin layers, that thin layers are called the two body cavities we have discussed. One is ventral body cavity and second is dorsal body cavity. As we have discussed in the previous session, the direction terms ventral and dorsal. Ventral means towards front and dorsal towards back. So here is the lateral view of body and this is the anterior view and this is the posterior view. Means this is dorsal view and this is the ventral view. The body cavities which lies towards the front, that is called the ventral body cavities, and those cavities lies towards the back and posterior side, that is called the dorsal body cavities. So here we can see that how many cavities included in dorsal body cavities and how many cavities included are part of when dorsal body cavities or ventral body cavities. So here is the cranium and cranium and vertebral column or vertebral canal are two body cavities that are included in dorsal body cavities, while when we are talking about ventral body cavities, here also two body cavities are included in this region at front side. So here is the thoracic cavity and abdominopelvic cavity. So we can say that ventral body cavity consists of two body cavities. One is thoracic cavity, and thoracic cavity consists of two lungs and then heart. While abdominopelvic cavity consists of abdominopelvic cavity consists of spleen, liver, stomach, intestines, and urinary bladder, kidneys. These organs included in abdominopelvic cavity. While dorsal body cavity, it consists of cranial cavity as well as vertebral canal. Cranium and vertebral canal. Cranium is spotted or covered to the brain, while vertebral canal is spotted to the spinal cord. These are the cavities included in ventral body cavities as well as dorsal body cavities. Ventral mean anterior, dorsal mean posterior. These are the cavities. While in thoracic cavity and abdominal cavity, these two cavities are separated by coelom initially in embryonic development. Later on, it converted into diaphragm, a muscular sheath. Thoracic and abdominal pelvic cavity are separated by a diaphragm, a muscular sheath. So these were the cavities, body cavities, and now we will move towards the thoracic cavities. How layers and membranes cover to the thoracic cavity. In thoracic cavity, the thoracic cavity is partitioned by three portions and separated by three portions. Two are lateral and one is middle. And these two separated by a mediastinal space. Here are the lungs. Between these two lungs, there is a mediastinal space. Here is the mediastinal space. And this space is occupied by the heart. And trachea and esophagus from up to the lower, and it passes from up to lower side. So, and the lungs, this lateral space is occupied by the lungs, and the mediastinal space is occupied by the heart. There are two membranes covered to the lungs. These layers is called pleural layers. Here is the pleural layers. Two pleural layers. One is outer and other is inner. The outer layer is called, this is inner layer, and here is outer layer. The outer layer is called near to the ribs. This is called outer layer. Both layers are called pleural. The outer layer is called parietal fluid, while the inner layer is called visceral layer. Visceral layer or visceral membrane. Between these two pleural layer, visceral and parietal, there is a space, and this space is called pleural cavity. And this cavity is lubricated by a fluid, and that fluid is called pleural fluid. Two membranes cover to the lungs, visceral and parietal. Between these two layers, there is a space, and this space is called pleural cavity, and there is a fluid to lubricate this cavity, and this fluid is called pleural fluid. Here is also heart is covered by a pericardial membrane. One is inner and one is outer. One is inner and one is outer. The outer layer is called same like pleural layer, the parietal layer, and the outer layer is parietal pericardium. While the inner layer is called visceral pericardium. Between these two pericardium layer, parietal and visceral, there is a space. This space is called pericardial cavity. And fluid, like to the fluid, here is the fluid between these two layers, which is lubricated. This cavity is called pericardial fluid. This was the thoracic cavity. Now we are moving towards the abdominopelvic cavity. Between abdominopelvic cavity and thoracic cavity, there is a muscular sheath that is called diaphragm. Initially it was a coelom, as we have discussed. In abdominopelvic cavity, around the abdominopelvic cavity, there is also two membranes, and these membranes are called peritoneum. These membranes are called peritoneum. One is outer and one is inner. The outer peritoneum is called parietal peritoneum. The inner is called visceral peritoneum. The outer is called parietal. Inner is called visceral. Between these two layers, there is a space, and this space is called peritoneum cavity. And the fluid between these two layers, and in cavity, that fluid is called peritoneal fluid. To avoid from friction, prevent from friction. So this is the ventral body cavities, in which thoracic cavity and abdominal pelvic cavities included. So when we are talking about the dorsal body cavities, in dorsal body cavities there is cranial cavity and vertebral canal, and there are three layers protect the brain as well as the spinal cord, and that three layers are called meninges. To protect the brain at delicate structure. So this was the body cavities and membranes. Any question after now? No question? Last.